Bronco Buzzard by Nanny Linda. Muddy Puddle Farm sits high on a hillside with beautiful views across the valley as far as the eye can see, and it is a rescue centre for animals owned and managed by Justine McPhee. There are paddocks with donkeys and horses, and the goats have a pen by the barn. And then there are 2 cows, Bluebell and Mavis, that were rescued by Justine from a neighbouring farm. There are also Hamish and McGinty, the Bactrian camel twins, who love nothing more than plodding down to the river and taking an afternoon swim. These 2 rascals were rescued when a local zoo had to finally close due to unscrupulous managers who were arrested when their dishonesty was exposed. In the pig pens there are Avril and Armani, 2 little pot-bellied pigs, and down in the lower pasture are the Shire horses Moses, Jesus and Ziggs. The wide river runs through the valley and is waist high at the deepest part, which Justine discovered one autumnal day when she was fishing with her brother Bart. On the other side of this river, trees grow strong and tall, and high in the treetops surveying the scene sits a buzzard screeching her call. She is calling to her youngsters who have just taken to their very first flight, and Justine has been watching their progress with enthusiasm and delight. One day when Justine was out on the land working, driving the tractor here and there, a young buzzard flew down to the roof of the cab and rode with her everywhere. When Justine had finished all her morning chores and drove the tractor back to the yard, the buzzard took off screeching as if saying goodbye, with his wings flapping slow and hard. The next day, when Justine drove the tractor, the buzzard again came along for a ride, and she gave him some raw beef titbits that she had saved from last night's steak and potato pie. In the afternoon, Justine heard a commotion and rushed outside to look around, and noticed that her friend the buzzard was jumping around on the ground. And he then hopped onto Jesus the Shire horse, who lashed out with bucks and some kicks, until he realised that the buzzard was helping him by pecking off flies, bugs and ticks. He then hopped onto Ziggs and then Moses, and gave each of them a comforting peck and a scratch. Then he jumped back down to the ground in the meadow and ran off through a dandelion patch. Justine stood with her mouth open in amazement at the interaction that she had just seen. No one would ever believe her that a wild buzzard had given her Shire horses a preen. One morning, while Justine was feeding the pigs with the help of her father Jack, she saw Zena the donkey strolling around with the buzzard sitting on her back. Another day she noticed that Bluebell the cow had an addition to her long 6-inch horn, as there, perched and balancing expertly, was the buzzard watching her munch on some corn. Buzzard tried to make friends with the goats, but they just bleated and scarpered into the barn, so he sat on the fence and just looked around, as if not wanting to cause them alarm. Hamish and McGinty were usually quite relaxed and didn't mind Buzzard resting on their hump, and when they thought it was time for him to leave, they would wriggle and shake and off he would gracefully jump. He didn't even try to sit on the pigs, as they always had a rather peculiar smell, so he kept his distance and watched them while perched on the roof of the well. Buzzard was a very intelligent raptor, the way he interacted so knowingly with one and all, and Justine and the animals always recognized when he was approaching by his distinctive screeching call. Buzzard became a well-known visitor to Muddy Puddle Farm and all of its rescued guests, and always enjoyed his treats from Justine and had his own special bird table on which he could rest. One day, Justine received a phone call, someone requesting a rescue home, so she drove off with her horsebox and opened Google Maps on her mobile phone. Later that day, Justine returned, her truck chugging up the steep hill to the farm, All the animals were waiting to greet the new guest, and all of their greetings were friendly and warm. Then out of the horse box waddled the hugest of beasts, with horns that were 18 inches long, and Justine led him with a rope tied to a ring in his nose, coaxing him with gentle words and a song. "This is Major, everyone. He has come here to live and relax for the rest of his days." And she led him into the field with Bluebell and Mavis, and new friendships were immediately made. The next morning there was a commotion. Major was bucking and snorting and prancing around, and Justine saw that Buzzard was hovering and trying to land on his back, and his wings were making a loud flapping sound. Buzzard couldn't understand why he couldn't make friends with this feisty beast who could kick so high, and Bluebell and Mavis tried to calm him and explain that Buzzard was a friend who lived nearby. Day after day, Buzzard tried again and again to make friends with Major, the new guest. But Major felt very threatened and bellowed angrily from his mighty chest. One day, Major had an annoying sore spot and was rubbing his rump on a tree. He had tried every low branch and fence post, but nothing solved the sting from the bee. Buzzard was sat on a low branch and looked down and saw the problem firsthand, and said, "I can pull out that bee sting for you if you would allow me to land." Major looked up and gave Buzzard a nod, so Buzzard hopped down onto his back, and using his beak very delicately, he pulled out the sting, just like that. "Thank you," said Major. "That has helped me a lot. I've never been stung by a bee before." Then Buzzard went and picked some basil leaves to rub on the swollen sore. So Buzzard made friends with everyone who now lived at Muddy Puddle Farm, and gave them all back cleaning sessions, and his massages worked like a charm. So that is how Justine named him Bronco, as he rode on all the animals that he could befriend. And when he finally rode Major the mighty bull, he became Bronco Buzzard, the feathery legend.